This is part 2 to the video I shared recently, which documents the day in November 2022 when several relatives, friends, and I went up into the land at 95 Halifax Road in Mahwah, New Jersey, the very land where my son, Muvid Two Clouds Williams, was found dead 4.5 months before this day, on July 6, 2022, after days of lying there decomposing. It is important that you first listen to part 1, as this video is only meant to explain the first, particularly statements made by the murderer. In part 1, there are multiple voices overlapping and arguing, making it difficult at times to clearly understand what is being said and by whom. There is a lot of backstory and references that were made, which only those who are in the know will understand. In this video, I will work to bring clarity to the listener in hopes that you will all walk away with the truth. Where we will begin is with my friend, realizing that the guy who had walked up and stood silently listening to me address the potluck group was S1, the primary murderer of Two Clouds. My friend began questioning him, demanding that if he knew something, he'd better come clean. So this is where I will start, with S1's answer.
We're hearing things, and I'm not even going to get into the room of it. Do you have anything to say? Because it incenses me if there's something that may have been done, and we're acting like we don't know. I know what I hear, and I know no paperwork. I know no proof for anything. The reason why I say anything is because at the end of the day, this is what the people say to me. Now, me being the person that I am, his brother, his cousin, when I'm doing the things that I'm doing with him and we're interacting, I don't know everything. All right, listen.
So first and foremost, understand that talking in circles and avoiding upfront questioning is what this guy S1 does best. This behavior is very typical for him, which is good for us because while he believes he is not giving any information, he's actually giving much. This is in fact what put him on our radar as the murderer in the first place, then let us know for sure by 2 days after Two Clouds' funeral. Not only does he avoid questioning, but he also attempts to redirect and distract questioning by inserting his own questions and notions that are irrelevant to what is being asked of him and to the situation of Two Clouds' murder altogether. Now here he is being confronted aggressively about what he knows of what happened to our Two Clouds. He initially mumbles something which was incoherent even in person. Then he says that what he knows is that there is no paperwork or proof of anything. In other words, no proof or documentation of what happened to Two Clouds. The phrase "no proof" is most interesting. He's being asked what does he know, and he says there is no proof. He goes on to say that the only reason he says anything at all is because of what the people say to him. S1 has literally given us no information, zero, concerning Two Clouds' last weekend, which was spent partially with him. The very little that he said to me during those 5 days after Two Clouds' funeral, or rather when he was found, was the same circling and avoiding while adamantly trying to convince me that Two have fallen from his canoe from a heart attack and drowned. And by adamantly, I mean with a desperate, pleading voice, as if he was going to cry if I didn't agree with him. Then he says that as Two Clouds' brother and cousin, he doesn't know everything. That sniff that you hear him do was intentional, a cocky gesture that he made, which made it seem to me that he believed he was saying something profound, not that he was talking in nonsensical gibberish, which was in no way answering the question. He's used to that sort of running around, shutting people down who are most often afraid of him and who do not like confrontation. Obviously, that is not us. Now, his brother, and S2 met Two Clouds in Mashpee Friday, July 1st, in order to deal with a situation with an Oklahoma Lenape guy who had shown up on that same land at 95 Halifax, issuing threats to the Ramapo people just a couple of weeks before the death. Many of the Ramapo were very afraid because this guy has a terrible reputation throughout Indian country. Yet instead of mentioning any of that, when nearly everyone else had concerns that this guy may have been involved in Two Clouds' murder, and because this guy had made a cocky Facebook post showing an overturned canoe just a few days after Two Clouds was found, the murderer, S1, didn't mention him once in all those months or since, to my knowledge, as a possible culprit. Oklahoma connections that I have allege that is because S1 and that guy have actually been cohorts for at least months before the murder of Two Clouds, and of course, unbeknownst to Two Clouds. I don't know if that part is true, but I can definitely see it being plausible.
I'm his blood cousin.
When did I ever call anybody's name?
Straight.
Hold on.
I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell you now. Do not disrespect her.
I never disrespected her.
Yo, please don't do that.
Just because I don't answer a question that I don't know the answer. I'm not telling you whether you know the answer. No, listen. I'm not telling you. Listen.
Talk about her.
I'm not here for this.
I don't give a fuck what you here for, but you're not here with good intent. I know that. I know that. You're not here for no good intent. No, we all feeling some kind of way. We all feeling some.
Here, one of my relatives confronted S1 about his calling me bitches to several people and saying that I was constantly calling him asking questions about what happened to Two Clouds. That was an outright lie. Before that day in late November, I had not spoken to S1 since 2 days after the funeral on Sunday, July 10th, when I cursed him out because he kept dancing around my questions and badgering me about if the police and medical examiner had said how Two Clouds looked when they pulled him from the water. He also kept saying that he was going to get the police report, which is when I had had enough. It seemed to me that he and S2 were super concerned about the report from day one, because they needed to know what law enforcement knew. His questions, dodging, attempted manipulation, and obsession with how Two Clouds looked drove that home for me. People who said that S1 was over and over again referring to me with such disrespect also said that they were left confused and that they would ask him, "How can you talk like that about your best friend's mother, knowing how close they were?" According to them, he would give answers like, "Well, where's the insurance money?" As if I had murdered Two Clouds myself in order to receive money or something. They also said that he would threaten S3 that he better not answer any questions from me or he would regret it. I find that interesting behavior for the self-proclaimed brother and cousin of a man whose family is simply looking for answers. If he somehow knew that Two Clouds actually had a heart attack and accidentally fell from his canoe to his death, why not tell what he knows? Why is threatening others who he obviously believes knows something or can help? After my relative started screaming at S1, he most likely was further thrown off. His coffee-laden hand was visibly shaking the entire time with fear. And although he wasn't sure if we were just there to blow off steam or to fuck him up and drag him into the water to his death, her anger stepped the energy up a notch or two. He stated that he wasn't there for that and was feeling some type of way about her screaming at him. That's when I spoke up to him directly and unfiltered. By the way, notice how he tries again to misanswer her accusation by implying that the disrespect she is referring to is his not answering questions that he does not have answers to.
You murdered my son. You murdered my son.
What?
You murdered
That's an accusation.
Hell no, it ain't.
I got in an argument
No,
with
it
the
ain't.
elders, and they tried to kick me out of
You
this
murdered
nation.
my son.
Right,
You
hold
a
on.
liar, and I got crazy proof on you because you don't know how to
Please show me.
shut up. Because you don't know how to
You know
shut
what?
up.
Because I can't shut up because I'm honest to a fault.
You was a goddamn liar.
Prove it. All right, proceed. What have you been doing?
This part is extremely important and telling. To my outright, confident, and absolute statement, "You murdered my son," multiple times, he answered, "What? That's an accusation. I got into an argument with the elders and they tried to kick me out of this nation." When I said that he is a liar and that I have lots of proof because he's always talking, he answers, "Please show me." Then he says that he talks too much because he's honest to a fault, even as he is lying in our faces right then. Then when I called him a liar again, he answered, "Prove it." Not once did he deny that he murdered my baby, Mureed Two Clouds Williams. He didn't gasp and ask, "How could you think that? I love Two Clouds." He didn't get upset or angered by me yelling at him factually 4 times that he murdered his so-called brother and cousin. He did not dig his heels in the ground and state firmly with confidence, "No, I did not murder my friend, and that is a lie." Nothing like that. So I'm going to ask, do all of you Ramapo, friends and allies, believe me now? Will the truth shake you from your silence? No? There's more.
Prove it. All right, proceed. What have you been doing to try and solve this? That's not my. What do you? Whoa! Is this your brother and your cousin? I ask, and I get shut out. I get accused of something I know nothing about. I got in an argument with the elders and almost kicked out of this nation, as well as Keisha.
My friend asked S1, "What have you been doing to try to solve this?" What you can't see is S1 places his hand on his chest and gestures as if what he is being asked is completely unreasonable. He starts to answer, "That's not mine," and my friend cuts him off saying, Whoa, how if it's your brother and your cousin?" S1 goes on, I ask, and I get shut out. I get accused of something I know nothing about. I got in an argument with the elders and almost kicked out of this nation, as well as the female who he mentions is who we call S2. Notice that S1, and in the next video, you'll find that S2 also uses lots of Indian tropes to try to steer questioning and accusations away from himself. They both are used to being around Indian fetishizers and pseudo-native spiritualists who devour that jargon, or who will at least stop questioning for fear of not seeming diverse, equitable, or ancestor-esque. Furthermore, his accusations of tribal threats is absurd, being that he was hand-picked to be Wolf Clan sub-chief just the week before. There was no election, and according to Facebook posts, tribal members had been totally blindsided when they woke up that morning and started getting word of what had happened during the night. So, not only does he have clout, or at least he has the Wolf Clan chief who put him in position without his having any leadership credentials at all. And until right after Tu's death, he was known for being a loudmouth bully who terrorized indigenous people everywhere he went. In fact, at the fire ceremony right after Tu Clouds' burial, he cursed out an 84-year-old elder, a community staple, in front of everyone who was there. Of course, we were not there, or that would have not gone down. Because he told the elder, right after the funeral, to take notice that he was now in charge since Tu was no longer there, and that he was the new war chief. According to the elder, when he told S1 that it didn't work like that, he needed to be elected by the tribe. And first off, he needed to have a tribal card. He and S2 cursed the elder out, and they both did so multiple times that day, as the elder told me directly. So not only does S1 not fear honored elders, he does not respect tribal law nor tradition, which should be evidenced as he and his helpers murdered and dumped 2 Clouds on the Ramapo religious land.
As well as Keisha.
But what the thing is what we want to know, do you remember me?
Yeah.
Okay. We want to know what happened.
How do I know? Listen, I have him on my GPS on my phone.
Okay.
He cut me off when we was in
not listening to the question. You're over talking the question.
Let
her finish the question first.
What do you know?
What do you want to know? What
do you mean? What do I want to know? I want to know what happened to him. That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I didn't see him that day or that night.
Okay, so
because you can look at his phone and you got my phone in and out.
if you go back.
Another friend questions S1. We want to know what happened. S1 replies, how should I know? Note that S1 has come up with several reasonings for Tu Clouds' death ever since the first day when he was found. 1, he said that Tu Clouds had had a heart attack, fell from the boat and drowned, which is what he told me that first night, over and over again. 2, that he committed suicide. 3, that the tribal chief murdered him. And 4, that some guy at Akwesasne, the Mohawk territory, did a voodoo spell on Tu Clouds, which made him have a heart attack, fall down in the boat, hit his head on the boat, get knocked out, fall in the water, and drown. However, now he has no suggestions, no advice, no nothing. He goes on. Listen, I had him on my phone. He cut me off when we were in Mashpee. When questioned again, what do you know? He answers, what do you want to know? What information could I possibly tell you? A third time question, I want to know what happened to him. He says, I don't know. I didn't see him that day or that night because you can look at his phone and you can see that my phone calls were in and out. I don't understand what the statement about his calls going in and out mean. Maybe it's just more jargon and manipulation, but I do see flags in these things. 1, saying that he didn't see him that day or that night either strongly suggests that he had a specific night in mind for when Tu was murdered, or he's talking about when they got to Mashpee and Tu Clouds allegedly blocked his number. That suggestion is very odd because if Tu Clouds was knowingly meeting S1 there and S2, to garner assistance against the Oklahoma guy, why would he then cut S1 off? Did 2 actually know that they were coming? It would make sense if he didn't know, because again, S1 and S2 were both undisciplined, undiplomatic, unintelligent, and were devoid of leadership skills and any decorum that would be needed to sit in a room full of chiefs asking for their support. After the Oklahoma guy came, Two Clouds held a warrior meeting, and I heard from multiple people that S1, S2, and the tribal chief were all acting ratchet, arguing at one another, being boisterous, and just plain tactless. In fact, Two Clouds himself told me how the tribal chief was acting. I always wondered what on earth would have Two Clouds take those two with him up there on such important business. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't know they were coming. One of Two's friends, the same guy who wrote that Facebook post the day after Two was found, that Two Clouds had called him on his drive back from Mashpee to New Jersey, and that Two Clouds kept telling him over a 2-hour-long conversation that he believed they were going to kill him. That was Saturday afternoon, and he would be dead in about 18 hours. Another thing that the friend who he was talking to on the way back from Mashpee told me is that Two Clouds was livid because he had pulled off the road for a few minutes, and sure enough, S1 popped up on him out of nowhere. And he cussed S1 out because he said he was sick and tired of him always tracking him and always popping up on him. So let me say about the phone. S1 had been sweating to give his old iPhone to Two Clouds just a month before. I'm told that initially S1 convinced Two Clouds that they should keep each other's location on at all times in case there was anything that ever happened to one of them, and so they could get to one another. S1 told me this himself the first night, the night when Two Clouds was found. But apparently, S1 was constantly popping up on Two when he was not invited. And Two Clouds had gotten tired of it. That was the first iPhone Two Clouds had ever had, and he was excited because we had always told him how the camera was better than the Android. He hadn't had it for very long, and he hadn't learned how to figure out all the workings of it. Maybe Two Clouds was being tracked, and he didn't realize it. Maybe S1 was not the only one tracking him. Although I don't quite understand S1's statement that if we looked into Two Clouds' phone, we would see that his calls were going in and out. However, it does make me wonder, why would S1 know what we would find in Two Clouds' phone at all? One of the things that has always puzzled me is that about 2, maybe 3 weeks before all of this happened, I sent texts to all of my children telling them that we should probably exchange each other's phone codes just in case anything ever happened to one of us. And Two Clouds told me himself that he had the same code for his phone that he had had for years. Yet, when I got his phones back with his personal belongings, his code did not work. Maybe S1 knows something that we need to know. 2, when our girlfriend questioned S1 about what he knew, and he said to her, "What do you want to know?" That to me implies that he in fact does have information, even though he continued to say that he didn't.
Facebook. Let's say Facebook is kind of like a timeline, right? He was going out of state, I think the weekend or the week before.
Yeah, we met at Mass P.
He comes back closer to the 1st of July, right? I think.
I don't know any dates. I could just tell you what happened.
Let's say around the 1st of July, he comes back into the area.
Whatever day Mass P was.
That was it was like the end of yeah. See.
Okay, we were supposed to meet Keisha there and Shanae.
So they.
I know where you ended up being at.
Shanae for what?
Because we were trying to talk with people to get the nations back together. Here's what happens. And we also we can't even legislate this. We can't. This is not legislate. We can't legislate from here. Here's what I'm going to say. We definitely can't. Here's what I'm going to say. There's not enough time in the day for me to sit down and talk to you. Hold up. Pause for a second. We are looking and actively looking to see what happened, Pete. I don't know.
Our relative, unaware of the timeline, starts asking S1 what day Two Clouds left. It's very interesting that S1 can't remember the day he last saw, allegedly, his bosom buddy, his brother and cousin, who went missing during that weekend and ended up dead. Especially when that was the 4th of July weekend and the big powwow up in Mashpee. If ever there was a day to remember, shouldn't that be it? The female voice that chimes in is S2. The first name he mentioned is S2's, and the second is the Shinnecock woman who claimed to have put the meeting together with chiefs for Two Clouds to claim his case and to ask for help. But after Two Clouds drove at least 4 hours during the big holiday weekend from Mahwah, New Jersey to Mashpee, Massachusetts, he found that there was no meeting for him. Now, a word on this woman. I won't go as far as saying that she set my son up, as the Oklahoma man actually lives in Massachusetts. But she was for damn sure lying to my son. If her plans had simply fell through, any decent person would simply call so that the person that was driving at least 4 hours would not do so, expecting a meeting that was not going to be. That's not what was done. She touts herself as an MMIW and MMIP, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons advocate. And in fact, she is one head of an East Coast MMIP task force whose sole job is to bring awareness and to advocate for missing and murdered Indigenous women and persons. However, 9 months after Two Clouds' death, 2 women who I added to my email blast called me. They said that they were from this task force and that I no longer had to worry, that they were with me and they were going to help get results. We spoke for 4 hours, and the one that I think is the leader instructed me to tell her everything I knew. But every time I mentioned someone, she would say, "Oh yeah, I know him. Oh no, I know her." So when I mentioned the Shinnecock lady, she immediately said, "Oh no, she had nothing to do with it. She's part of the task force." That was interesting, to say the least, because she had obviously not said a word to these 2 women about Two Clouds. One of the most notable leaders and actually successful in the land back movement, retrieving well over 100 acres of land that he fought for within the court system with deeds and treaties and actual proof, and had that land returned back to the Ramapo people. Yet, the Shinnecock woman had not mentioned him to her colleagues. She absolutely knew that he was dead because tribal nations all over America and outside of America were having ceremonies to send off Two Clouds. And her best friend is also a good friend of Two Clouds, and he, I know for a fact, was broken up because he called me multiple times in just a mess over the loss of Two Clouds. So there's no way that she did not know. Why did she say nothing? Why has she been so quiet these past 2 years? And in fact, why are none of the Northeast MMIP groups saying or doing anything when they all knew Two Clouds, or at least someone who did? Who are they protecting? Themselves? Their friends or relatives? Are they actually friends with the Oklahoma guy? Or are some of them spies, like some people seem to think S1 and S2 are, because they both popped up to Ramapo Mountain around February of 2022. And for S2, definitely, no one there seemed to know who she was. And no one can place who her family is. Then in less than 6 months after they arrived, the greatest leader that Ramapo has probably ever had, at least in many generations, is dead. He's dead, and nobody is doing or saying anything about it. The Ramapo have essentially erased Two Clouds, and for sure, their tribal chief, their clan chiefs, and their council have. Not a word is spoken for Two Clouds publicly, and not a thing is done to look into his death. S1 says that he, S2, and Two Clouds were meeting up at Mashpee with the Shinnecock because they were working to get the nations back together. Again, that is not why Two Clouds was there. But also, if that was the case, there was no we. It would have been Two Clouds because, again, S1 and S2 are idiots who have zero leadership skills, have zero decorum, are undisciplined, and just uncouth. Again, S1 likes to use Indian tropes. He likes to try to make himself seem bigger than he actually is.
Talk with people to get the nations back together. Here's what happens. And we also we can't even legislate this. We can't. This is not legislate. We can't legislate from here. Here's what I'm going to say. We definitely can't. Here's what I'm going to say. There's not enough time in the day for me to sit down and talk to you. Hold up. Pause for a second. We are looking and actively looking to see what happened, Pete. I don't know anything. I don't know anybody. So I don't know in the ins and outs of any of this. What I'm telling you is this. Even stories that I heard and everything, I don't know who's not saying anything and why they're not saying anything. Hold up. I don't know. Hold on. I don't know. I don't because I got him on my GPS. Hold on. Because I can tell you when he cut me off and when he cut me back on his GPS. When he was supposed to go meet somebody that said that they didn't meet him, that said that this what happened at the meeting, and I know it's a lie, and you look right in my face and tell me, and then you turn around at his services and tell somebody else something else. Pete, listen, I don't know. Let's talk about it. Listen. Hold on. This is what I'm telling you. I don't know about any of that. I hear you. But I feel the way about that. we feel a way about everything. Yeah. So understand. Understand what this is what I'm telling you. Understand this. We're trying to find out whatever help you can give, you give. But unlike some people involved here, nobody here, it's me specifically, I don't give a shit about any of all of the other stuff.
So here, there's a whole lot being said, but really nothing at all. There's just more running in circles, avoidance, manipulation, projection. And notice, he's been saying all this time that he has no information. He doesn't know what happened with Two Clouds. He doesn't know anything. But here he says there's not enough time in a day to be able to tell us what he knows, essentially. So which is it? Does he know nothing at all, or does he know so much that there's not enough time in a day to be able to sit down with us to talk about?
Just know, and it sucks for you that it comes across that people are blaming you. But I hear you. Know what? I hear you. I don't care. I hear you. I don't care.
I'm fucking blaming him. I'm blaming him.
I don't care if anybody blames him. You want to know why? Because my heart knows.
Your heart,
my heart knows. I know.
You have a black heart.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Make sure you got everything in order. You got to put the house in order. Because
my house ain't in order. That's the problem.
We want to answer.
All right, well, the police ain't in order. Whoever happened, why I can't get the autopsy? Why I can't get the coroner's report?
Because you're not.
I'm saying I can file for it. I can file for it. I can file a FOIL for it. But my whole thing is like this. I'm pretty sure that y'all did already.
The immediate family has access
to
the coroner's report, and they can release it to whoever else they want to release it.
I know they can.
Why y'all keep trying to? Why y'all keep trying to
Yes, I should do my due diligence and get it myself. But you want to know what? I'm being attacked.
Why y'all keep trying to? Why y'all keep trying to get the autopsy report?
Y'all can do your thing, and guess what? I'm gonna go back home and deal with my shit that I got going on.
This your shit that you got going on right here.
But when I'm being attacked.
Here, S1 keeps complaining that people are blaming and attacking him about Two Clouds' death, but that he doesn't care. Not only is he playing the victim, but he has yet another chance to say outright that he did not murder Two Clouds. But he doesn't. And pay attention to what is actually being said here, that I and my family are not the only ones who believe that he murdered Two Clouds. Remember, this is only 4.5 months later, and he is making the claim that people, including elders, are accusing him of murder and threatening to kick him out of the tribe. As I've already said, I do not believe this is true, if only because he was made sub-chief. And even if the people didn't appreciate having no vote in his being chosen, no one actually did anything about it, which obviously he, the Wolf Clan chief, and their cohorts knew would be the case. But the huge elephant in the room is the why. Why was it done? And who actually benefits? Certainly not the tribal members. So what's really happening? S1 also accusingly asks, why can't he get the police and autopsy reports, as if something is being maliciously hidden from him. Then he quickly interjects that he can get it himself, but figured we already have it. So what was the point of the statement? This is just more attempts at gaslighting, manipulation, and circling. Yes, it's true that both reports are and have always been open to the public to retrieve. And I've actually waited for nearly 2 years for all of those who were doing the same gaslighting as he to go and do so on their own accord, if they cared so much, or if they thought that I was being somehow untruthful. To do their due diligence, as S1 acknowledged he was not doing. Either no one has done so, or they did, yet didn't find whatever they thought they would find in order to counter my claims. So that's why I will soon be making both reports public, as well as reissuing the letter that the tribal chief sent to the medical examiner the day after Two Clouds was found, offering possible causes for Two Clouds' death. The same letter that I showed in the Silence on the Land video, where the tribal chief falsely claimed that I was on board with his sending it. And the same letter that, if it was so concerning that these things could have been the reason why Two Clouds was dead, he never did send to the police department. At the end of the day, S1 gave a lot more reasons to solidify our belief, and maybe now yours too, that he indeed murdered Two Clouds. Of course, as I have always said from the very first moment I heard that my son had been pulled from the water, lifeless, S1 absolutely did not and could not have done it alone. And yes, we know far more than can be divulged publicly at this time. But know that there was a whole plot against Two Clouds, because he was the only one truly blocking the misappropriation of the Ramapo tribe and the land and the resources that he himself rolled up his sleeves, went and demanded be returned to his people. Two Clouds literally went to his death fighting for the Ramapo. He is their true leader, and he should be considered their hero. Maybe their future generations will see him as just that. Unfortunately, it was other indigenous people, not whites, not phantoms, other indigenous people from 5 different tribes who decided that he was a problem that needed to be erased. I know that rubs a lot of you the wrong way. You have your ideas about who and what indigenous people are, but don't be fooled. All indigenous people are no more than human. And this, killing each other over land, power, money, is something that existed long before European infiltration. But be that as it may, no matter what our ancestors may have done, wrong is wrong, and this is wrong. And we will continue to fight to make sure that all of those who enforced evil, no matter what race, ethnicity, tribe, or clan, they will be paying with their freedom. And it is my ardent hope and prayer that Creator will deal with them accordingly once they leave this world. Thank you for listening. Nyawagoa. Thank you very much.